Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, brought to you by the Wealthy Speaker School. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and today we are talking about systems to help you scale your speaking business. Whoa, that's a big topic. So I've got not one, but two guest experts on with me today who are in the business of helping speakers set up systems. Welcome Taylorr Payne and Grammon from SpeakerFlow. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Austin, you have to say hello because we are not going to record the video on this today, by the way.
Gotcha.
You're
well,
gonna
hello.
Yeah. So waving your hand at the screen is not going to cut it on this podcast.
No problem. I can use my words.
Okay, there you go. Taylor, tell everybody what SpeakerFlow is all about.
Yeah, so SpeakerFlow is a technology, automation, and strategy consulting agency for professional speakers. So I know that was a lot of words, but in a nutshell, the idea is that there's a lot of technology out there, right? And we found that over the course of our entire careers, Austin and myself, that there were a lot of people just putting software on a shelf because they'd buy the next shiny object and not know how to implement it or optimize it to work within their workflow. And over time, it would just become a huge time waster. It wouldn't produce the ROI that every software promises to. And after spending years in the industry, specifically with marketing and operations and sales, we decided that it was time for a change in this market so we could help people really come up with a strategy and a process to implement all of their tools and technology into their workflow. Because as speakers, we all want that business that runs smoothly. We don't want to have any second guessing. We don't want to have to worry about wasting our money or our time, especially our time, on things that aren't producing value.
Yeah.
So the idea is to make it as simple as possible for us to implement all of the tools and technology across marketing, sales, and operations, those three major pillars for all of our businesses, so that we have a streamlined workflow and where the systems are actually working for us rather than against us.
Love it. Love it. Hey, Austin, would you agree that a lot of people they'll try to buy their way out of a problem. They'll buy the solution, but then they'll never really learn how to use the solution quite as well as they need to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my background is coming from Karma CRM, which is a software tool specifically for speakers, their Karma speaker variant at least. And that was the biggest problem that we ran into. I mean, finding the CRM or the system is one thing, but then being able to actually leverage it and make money off of it so that it's not just an expense, but it's actually providing you value every month.
Right.
I mean, that's really
that's where the rubber meets the road, is you have to use it. So let's just say that our first tip of today's podcast is look at all the tools that you have and look at the ones that can make you money and ask yourself, am I using this? Am I practicing on this so that every time I go in there, it's not like you're learning a new language each and every time. You're actually familiar, right?
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just talk through what some of the basics are. I have clients who are really killing it out there in the speaking world. And then I'll get on the phone with them and I'll say, okay, remind me, what is your CRM again? And what is this again? And what is this again? They don't have the big systems in place. They really are kind of flying by the seat of their pants sometimes. So let's talk through what some of the basics are. Can we all agree that a CRM is pretty much essential from, the earlier the better, let's just say? How's that?
Absolutely. I really think it should be one of it, if not the first tool, the very early on that you implement. Because more than just keeping track of your clients, it really provides metrics on how you're performing, especially if you're leveraging a deal pipeline, right? I could find out just from my pipeline alone what's happening after my proposals are sent out. If 70% of them are falling through the cracks, then obviously there's something wrong in that system that I could optimize, right? So more than just the management of the client side, having the metrics to make data-driven decisions to improve is essential.
Right. And one of the beautiful things about Karma and other CRMs that we'll talk about is being able to see oh, this person hasn't even opened any of my emails. What a beautiful thing to notice that is, right? Don't you love that we have the ability to actually see what's going on at the other end? And if they have been ignoring us when we go to hop on a call, our goal is to try and change that and enlighten them as to who we are.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Just to raise my hand there, data-driven, efforts in your business are the only way to go about it. And that's really the key for a CRM. Yes, it's a glorified Rolodex. It's a place to put your contacts, have a place to keep them, have a place where they can live, where you can find everything in one spot. That's all true. But being able to dig a little bit deeper and make sure that the processes that you have in place are actually delivering for you is huge, because otherwise it's just wasted time and you're letting money slip through the cracks that doesn't have to.
Right. So let's just talk through like some of the key features that we think people should be using. One of the things that I don't think people think about enough is how they tag people when they put them into their database. And so let's say if you have a tag that talks about the month of the year that the client is going to be planning in, then it's rolling around to July. You can say, let me search everybody who's doing meeting planning in July. And then you have a nice list of people that you can just reach out to because you know that's going on. How powerful is that?
Oh, extremely powerful. I mean, basically, you're putting your leads on recycle at that point, especially if you've spoken at one place for 1 year. What are the chances that they're going to have another event very similar to that in the upcoming years, right?
Right.
And so if you reach out to them first time, maybe it's a no-go. But then they're saying, no, but let's take this July example. I have a meeting coming up that we're going to be planning for in July. Mm-hmm. Then you have a list, an evergreen list that you can constantly recycle through and add that as part of your monthly workflow so that you're continually generating revenue. The problem is if you just leave it as like, okay, that's great. They're going to, I'm going to put a follow-up task in July. I'm not really going to tag it at all. Then all of a sudden you're getting overwhelmed with about 75 follow-up tasks, which could be, ridiculous if you're working through a lot of leads at the time. But let's say you're adding leads from January through July. If you're not tagging them properly, you're never going to be notified of when to follow up with that person. Right. And then you're quite literally leaving money on the table.
Yep, for sure. And let's say you put in there what industry everybody's in and you decide you're going to go deep in real estate. Well, now you have a list of people that are already in your backyard who are a part of the real estate industry. Mm-hmm. So, really plan out we have a page in the Wealthy Speaker 2.0 that kind of says, here's what we think you should put in your database as the fields, all the fields that you can customize. And I really love the industry field for that purpose.
Absolutely. And I mean, just aside from looking for new gigs, with an industry field, you can find out where you're absolutely killing it. If you're finding out that you're really doing well in the real estate space, for example, obviously you're going to take note of that. And you have all of these people who you've reached out to and who you've done really well for. And you're like, wow, I really wanted to get in the dental industry, but apparently the real estate space is just absolutely awesome for me. Right. And you have all of that data to continue to hunt for more associations and more companies that are in that industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we talked earlier about being able to see cash flow and pipeline and what's coming in. Love that feature. We've talked about the search engine feature of a CRM. I love that you can keep every communication with a client in one place. That's a beautiful thing with your CRM. From the first conversation all the way through and all your notes all the way through to contract and what you followed up with and the travel expenses and what have you. What are some other features that I haven't mentioned yet?
I would say one of the biggest ones is integration, because really your CRM shouldn't be a standalone tool. It could be a hub of sorts for you.
All right.
So, your CRM should be connected to your email marketing, and your CRM should also be connected to your video conferencing, and the deal pipeline should be connected to however you do proposals. It can become sort of like the central point for your client-focused ecosystem for your business. So like making sure that it plays nicely with the other things that you're currently doing is a big key thing. If it's a standalone tool, then you're not going to remember to do it because it's a pain to go there.
Right. So, for instance, you might want to connect your QuickBooks over to your CRM to make sure that those are playing nicely. And I know that we've talked a lot about e-speakers and e-speakers. I know I always talk about this because I was a beta tester on eSpeakers, but originally was designed to actually host all of the information about an event. You know, what time is the AV check? Did we send the boxes of books? You know, all of that information should be in one place. And I'm amazed that there are people who don't have those checklists and all of the things that they need systemized for that to be out on the cloud at their fingertips on their iPhone when they actually get to an event. So working nicely in the sandbox with all the other systems is a really good qualifier. Now, I know you guys also really like Hubspot. We'll put links to Karma there, and we'll also put a link to Hubspot. Talk a little bit about that CRM in particular and why you guys like it.
I cannot say enough good things about HubSpot. I love it. And part of it's really a twofold thing. First of all, the user experience is amazing. Being able to get in and know where to go to find the information you're looking for is really key. A lot of other CRMs out there muddy the waters, and it gets pretty difficult to be able to find what you need when you want to find it without having to click 20 times. So that's one thing. The second thing is that they have a massive budget, and that helps because that really I would say that they're the second in line next to Salesforce, and Salesforce obviously being geared towards enterprise companies isn't ideal for a small business. So HubSpot really fills that gap and does it the best. You might pay for it. It's not the cheapest tool out there, but you get the best features for a small business at a really fair price point for what you get out of it.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'll put links to that into the show notes. Okay. So anything else about a CRM that we haven't really touched on that we should talk about?
Yeah, I did want to raise my hand, and this is really in light with the HubSpot conversation, but I'm a very metrics-driven individual. I've seen tremendous success in growing business simply by looking at the data, figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and then iterating upon that, right? Data-driven decision-making, as we like to call it. Having a CRM, be it HubSpot or otherwise, that gives you reporting and very accurate and easy to understand reporting. Because it's one thing to assemble an entire dashboard to get all of the things you need in a spreadsheet just so you can understand your data. And then you need a data visualization tool to understand all that nonsense. It's just, at some point you're wasting time.
I just fell asleep terribly.
Exactly, right. You're just wasting time. You're bored. You don't want to do it. Yeah. So finding a CRM that makes reporting easy so that you can make those decisions, you can track your conversion rates across your pipeline. You can see what email templates are performing the highest, and you can iterate on those, which ones aren't getting open rates and which ones are, and figuring out how to iterate from there. Having a CRM with good reporting that's easy to understand, doesn't put you to sleep, and makes you enticed to make decisions and change them and adapt, that's really one of the best winning features in a CRM, I believe.
Okay, so action item number 2 really from this call, I think, is that we all need to step up our game. Maybe not some people, but I'm certainly putting myself into this bucket. We all need to step up our game when it comes to analytics. I am not taking as much advantage. Luckily, I do have a team, and my team often will take advantage and bring me back information. I have to laugh because, Austin, your dog's tail makes it look like there's a skunk going back and forth behind you.
The wild scenery in the background.
And so Austin has this kind of scene set up with his Zoom that makes it look like he's on a river. And now you've got a skunk on a river, and it's just really, really funny. So sorry, I'm busting a gut over here looking at your dog. Anyway, analytics, that's something that, Taylor, I wish I could keep you in my back pocket and say, okay, you run all the analytics for me, because I probably buried my head in the sand, and I bet you there's a few people out there who can relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea, especially when we're working with people, is to make analytics reporting as easy as possible, right? And so automated updates, every single week in Slack, I get notifications about my analytics for Google and HubSpot and all these things. So I don't ever have to set a schedule to go in and look at those things, because every single week on Monday, I get a report of everything that happened that week. of all of the high level metrics that I'm interested in. And I probably spent, I'm not going to lie, I spent 2 or 3 hours getting all of that set up, right? But now I'm saving 30 minutes to an hour a week just digging through the mundaneness of all of the reports that we need to understand, right?
Yeah.
So it gives me all of those red flags very easily. And I'm not really going to complain about saving 52 hours a year on the analytics end of things, right?
That's really good. And I just remembered, Austin, you and I did a lesson for the Wealthy Speaker University, the Wealthy Speaker School. And that was one of my to-dos that I walked away with. Okay, I've got to set that up in Slack. Okay, so let's back up a second and talk about Slack. So for those of you Wealthy Speaker listeners who have a team of people that you work with, for some of you, it's going to be all virtual. Your web designer, your bookkeeper, your virtual assistant, whoever helps you with whatever. We bring them all together in Slack. We love Slack, but what we've recognized is that we can only use Slack for one-off questions, and we have to put the rest in Asana for project management purposes. Otherwise, Slack can become quite overwhelming. Have you guys found that as well? Because I know you use Asana as well.
Absolutely. It's an ecosystem, right? Like Asana serves a different purpose than Slack and vice versa. So it's about using them in a collaborative effort.
What's your definition of the difference between the two?
Yeah. So Asana is largely project management and team communication as it relates to projects and tasks.
Right.
Now, Slack we use as just team communication. But when we say team, I'm also talking about the automation that we have at play. I'm a firm believer that if you're a solopreneur, Slack can become your hub of information. You can have a marketing channel where your email list is automatically synced to that. So every time you get somebody that subscribes on your website, you can know what form they filled out. You know that they've subscribed at that point. You can set up your analytics and reporting. You can add those virtual team members that aren't necessarily task driven, but you have questions for, right? Like your bookkeeper. They have a process in place to make sure everything is working well for you on your financial side. They might not need an Asana project mapping out every single task that they need to do, but rather it's nice to check in with your bookkeeper every now and then and say, hey, how are things looking? I need help with X, Y, and Z. Taxes are coming up. How much can I spend? All of these questions, right, as business owners.
Yeah. So hey, Jane, reminder to pay your quarterly taxes. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. And then you can transfer that over to Asana. And, the integrations that Slack and Asana have, I can just write a command. So like if the bookkeeper says, hey, you need to do this, then I can write a command /Asana and it creates a task right in the project that I need it to from Slack. So it's supposed to work right together, right? It's a collaborative ecosystem.
I have a feeling that we may be losing some people to overwhelm at this point. So let's just, for those of you who might be first starting out into the speaking business, let's say maybe just think about your CRM first. Let's get somewhere to put all of the leads that you're going to contact and start to work with them. And we do think that Karma CRM for speakers is a nice, easy system to get going on. Don't you think? Would you guys agree with that?
No doubt.
It's a fantastic basic CRM. Definitely.
Okay, cool. And then as you get more advanced, you may move into Hubspot. And then as you get more advanced, you may do what I'm doing and go into Infusionsoft. And, they get kind of more robust as you go. So let's just let everybody relax who's like, I need all this stuff. You may not need all this stuff yet. Let's just work on one thing at a time. But for those of you who do have a pretty robust system in place, it's great. And we're going to talk at the end of our podcast about how you can kind of bring all your systems together and have SpeakerFlow help you do that. But one of the things I want to add on is just to get more crazy into the system here. My bookkeeper and I have started using HubDoc, HUBDOC, so that I don't have to get her any reports anymore, any bank statements anymore. Everything to do with my information is now there. So that's a beautiful thing, a nice little layer onto that. I don't think that's a Canadian thing. I think it's probably a US and Canadian thing. So we'll put a link to that into the show notes as well. This is one that you're going to want to go to the show notes. There's going to be a lot of juicy stuff there. Okay, so team communication, we talk in Slack, and I love there's so many add-ons to Slack, and every time there's a Google Drive thing, that certainly comes into Slack, and Asana links with Slack, and all of these great things do. But just be careful how you use Slack. It's really great for like that one-off question. It's not a project management tool. Typically, we look at Asana for that, and lots of different project management tools out there. And then what all should we be thinking about in terms of analytics? I know we talked about Google Analytics for your website, that type of thing. What analytics should we be really keeping an eye on?
Yeah. So aside from the website, because Google Analytics can really tell you a lot, right? It can tell you about your content strategy. Are your blogs performing well? Are they converting into email subscriptions? There's some complex layers to Google Analytics that allow you to set up what are called goals for your website. So in the speaker flow context, we want to measure how many users are visiting our site versus how many are scheduling strategy sessions, so that I know how well that's performing, right? So you can set up goals to track events on your website that you specifically want them. We also have a resources page, right? So I want to know, out of all the people that are landing on our resources page, how many are converting into email signups. So I have a goal set up for that. So Google Analytics, aside from just tracking your metrics, can really give you a lot of insight on user behavior and how your funnel is working for you, which, if set up properly, can be a tremendous resource.
Excellent. So by the end of this podcast, you guys and I are going to be doing a strategy session, because I want all that stuff set out for myself. So we've talked about CRMs. We've talked about email marketing. I love the idea of seeing, okay, this post performed really well. This is obviously what people want to see from me. And I had that on my dashboard in Infusionsoft, but I would like to pull it all into Slack. We've talked about project management. We've talked about team communication and analytics. We have a cool graphic that will allow people to see. Do you guys have that graphic, the speaker flow graphic up in front of you? This is going to be under a blog post called Building a Speaking Business, 7 Systems You Absolutely Need, which we will share with you all. So let's just talk through this graphic, because it's very interesting to see what all can happen, starting with the pink section, which is form filled out on, so this is your your business, form filled out on website for speaker flow. Then what happens?
So after that, it automatically gets added to HubSpot. We don't have to lift a finger, because, you know, in our business, we really are looking for marketing qualified leads. These are people who are submitting a form. They might not be like extremely interested yet in booking a strategy session. So there's a nurture series for that. But we want to be able to track when they are interested and convert into a sales qualified lead, which there's some more complex mechanisms to talk about. But regardless, we want to keep those people in our CRM because they have some level of interest with us, right? So they automatically get added to our CRM for HubSpot and are then a marketing qualified lead. So then we can nurture them, get them to convert into a strategy session or learn more about their business. We also get notified in Slack. This is important for us because if we have somebody that maybe somebody said, oh, hey, I just referred so-and-so over to your website, right? If we get a notification in Slack saying, you know, Debbie just submitted this form on our website after somebody told us about that referral, we're then notified saying, oh, hey, this person just filled it out. And we can have the proper measures in place to follow up with that person.
Nice.
Once it gets added to the CRM, we then, of course, sync it to MailChimp, right, which is our preferred email marketing provider. They get added with a series of tags or groups depending on at what point in the website they signed up. Blog letter subscribers are going to be treated differently than resource subscribers or newsletter subscribers, right? So then that's all segmented out so that we can properly nurture them.
Okay, question. The HubSpot then doesn't have an email arm of it built right in, correct?
They do. It just costs a lot. HubSpot is a fairly higher level tool as far as the pricing tier is concerned.
Okay.
So as we're building our business, we are able to integrate our email marketing provider with HubSpot until we're ready and willing to transition from MailChimp to HubSpot at its fullest tier.
Gotcha.
Which is about $1,200 a month. So
Karma does have that built right in, though, do they not?
Well, there's a difference between transactional emails and promotional emails, right? So Karma is what sends the transactional one-to-one emails.
Okay.
However, having another series for promotional emails where you're educating and you're providing value that's a little more highly designed and has a little more interaction, that's where the email promotional end of things come from, which is MailChimp. So
okay. All right, fair enough. And then with Infusionsoft, that is one of the benefits of Infusionsoft is it has all of that under one house. And again, not the cheapest thing in the world, but that's something that that may happen. Okay, so I've got about 10 minutes left here. Excuse me. Let's whip through. Did we get all the way around here in all of the sections?
Well, we got through pink and purple, and then we get to blue, right? So once we have that person added to MailChimp as subscribed for our newsletter, the idea is to get them into a strategy session, right? Like if we can just talk to somebody, we can provide some value, we'll both know whether or not we're a good fit for each other and how to carry the relationship forward from there. So once somebody books a strategy session, we're notified in Slack, of course, because we want to know when that happens. The meeting is saved in Calendly, and then we also have automation set up so that we as a team are all invited to that strategy session right away. Okay. And what we were finding is we were having to take that invite and then add everyone applicable to the meeting to it. Right. And then sometimes that got lost. All of a sudden we didn't have the right calendar bookings. So we set up an automation in place for that. And then, of course, through Calendly, which is a beautiful system, they're able to get reminded about all of the meetings that's coming up, right? So you can set your own reminder emails up. So it kind of creates this ecosystem of making sure that we're notified about what's going on and the client is notified what's going on. And that just helps with the onboarding process.
All right. So we'll put links to Calendly in the show notes, Monica. And actually, my system is a little bit more robust. It's really for people who are quite busy. It's called Acuity. Mm-hmm. And so we can put a link in there too for somebody who maybe does as much coaching as I do, that type of thing. They might want something a little bit more robust. Okay. Well, guys, we have covered a lot. I have a feeling people's minds are like racing. If you have listened to this show and you are traveling, hopefully you'll sit down, go through it again, write it all down, and then decide which of these things you would like to implement first. You know, it could be that you keep some on your 30-day list, some on 60, some on 90. Guys, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best first step if they would like to know more about you?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is go to our website, speakerflow.com.
Okay.
We've got a ton of information about who we are and what our process looks like and some of the tools and systems that we help implement and optimize.
Great.
We also offer a free strategy session. If you're a part of the Jane Atkinson network, we'll do a 60-minute session instead of a 30-minute session.
Ooh, okay. So they better look for the link then in the show notes to make sure that they come through on that link. I am an affiliate of y'all. We like to disclose those things, and we'll probably put some affiliate links to some of these things out here as well. So, okay, strategy session is the first. I'm thinking might need to sign myself up first here because I've got a few things that I would like a few bugs that I'd like to work out. I've got my system, but I think, can you guys help me with working out a few bugs?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, Wealthy Speaker listeners, thank you so much for being on the show today. Taylor, thank you for being here. Austin, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure, as always.
Most appreciate it. And if you've enjoyed the show today, make sure you leave us a comment, leave us a rating on iTunes. And with that, we will say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed our show, you'll want to come and visit us at the Wealthy Speaker School, where we provide a proven roadmap for building your dream business. Go to wealthyspeakerschool.com. And for show notes for today's podcast, head on over to speakerlauncher.com and click on podcast. I'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers.